I do think tigers have six nipples. Welcome back to the Saga, the Clone Saga, aka the Clone Zone. This is the show where we read through the entirety of the infamous 1990s Spider-Man clone saga. My name is Matt, and my friends here are going to introduce themselves presently.
I'm Billy.
I'm Mike.
And I am Vincent.
Vince, what's our sponsor this week?
Our sponsor this week is BetterHelp.com. You can go there and sign up to get affordable counseling from the safety of your home. Many have signed up and used their services.
Sign up now. Get better help. What are we reading today, Vince?
It makes sense that our sponsor is BetterHelp because the name of this episode... What?
Nothing. Nothing. It's a bad joke. Keep going.
The name of this episode is Suicidal Tendencies, which is the name of this flagship
podcast
we're reading here.
It's odd when the story arcs are becoming self-aware to us.
Yeah.
But see, also there's no reason for it to be called that.
Yeah, I don't understand the naming. Is it a really shitty metaphor where the lizard kills himself?
But no, it's because at the end of the story, either the lizard kills himself to save his son.
No, he doesn't.
But
that's not even true.
The lizard saves his son.
Well, the lizard kills the lizard, so he kills himself.
He doesn't even. He just turns. No. Okay, whatever. We'll get to it when we get to it. But it's like no one comes close to committing suicide in this entire story. So it's
besides the four of us.
Yeah.
Again, BetterHelp.com. Affordable therapy.
I feel like this episode now needs a viewer discretion kind of at the bottom.
So Suicidal Tendencies is in Spectacular Spider-Man 238 to 239. And this first issue, I think this cover is slightly cool.
I think it's a cool concept. I don't know how well it works.
Yeah. Writer here on both issues is Todd DeZago. This first issue is Sal Buscema, and we'll get to the other part later.
Gone, everybody! He's finally gone!
Yep. So Kurt Connors, he's back in Palm Beach, Florida, and he's having more of his environmentalist monologuing, which never fully makes sense.
Yeah.
And there's a panel where there's a roadkill armadillo. And armadillos, you can find them in Florida, but I don't think they're all that common. So I would not have made this artistic choice. I would have chose a different animal. And he's with his family. He seems to have the whole lizard thing under control, as he has recently. And his son, I just want to mention this because it's funny. His son goes off to go to an arcade with his friends.
I liked Kurt Connors' very forced smile at seeing hi to his son when he came back. I wrote that down because I wrote notes this week in my head, not on paper. But it's a very forced smile.
Well, listen, do you not try to force a smile when you see your next meal? Because sometimes
I was wondering how long it would take for us to get there.
Immediately, because
record time.
So
I hate it.
Back to BetterHelp.com. Now we get this thing where apparently Kurt Connors, he suffers from anxiety of some sort.
Sure.
And he's medicated on. Later he mentions Xanax, but it's spelled wrong, and I wasn't sure if that is actually a copyright concern.
They were only one letter off, though.
Yeah, but it's enough, I assume.
I mean, you don't want to mess with the pharmaceutical execs, so it may have just been just to be safe.
Yep. But I guess I don't expect super nuanced discussion of mental health in superhero comics.
Unless Tom King's writing it.
His description of anxiety and it's really weird. Doesn't line up. And then we get a refresh on his origin. And I think it's interesting here, and Matt can input on this. So the lizard is super early, right? That's like, isn't that like the first few issues of Spider-Man?
Yeah, it's number 6 or 7, I think.
Okay, yeah. So he lost his arm in war. Is that is in the original story, right? Or
I believe so, yes.
At least whenever they initially get to his origin. But obviously he was originally introduced in the 60s, so that war would have been World War II. The way that this flashback is drawn showing his origin, I felt that this issue is trying to show Vietnam. Did any of you guys feel that way?
Yeah, it looks like there's like palm tree or something in the background, so I don't know.
I also would it have been World War II, or would it have been Korea?
Yeah, I guess it could have been Korea in the Silver Age as well, but it definitely wasn't Vietnam originally. I feel that's definitely what they're doing here. So
I have something to say about Kurt Carnes' arm. So it gets shot up, and I guess hit with some shrapnel, and I guess he just like decided to just haphazardly bandage it and wait until he got a test back until gangrene set in, and he just didn't get any medical help before that. That's kind of irresponsible.
Well, he's saying that it was because he was focusing on handling the other people on the battlefield. But, like, also that's not what a good field medic would do, because if he loses his arm, then he can't help the people on the battlefield.
Yeah, right. Regardless, he only has, even with the arm just hanging there, he still only has the use of one arm.
So either he's a real irresponsible doctor or he's a really bad doctor. And I don't know which is worse.
Well, he's a pretty irresponsible doctor, as we've seen in Spider-Man comics.
He turned himself into a lizard monster. So yeah, maybe you're right.
And then ate his kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I'm not really going to hold him eating his kid against him, because, like, sometimes you just get hungry. And your kid's, like, right there, so you're like, eh.
All right, Billy. Then at the end of this podcast, I want you to eat little Ben.
Absolutely not.
So then gangrene sets in to have to amputate the arm, which I also think is a change, or maybe just was never specified. And at this point, the other lizard attacks a family.
Well, first I want to say at the end of the origin where they finally get like, oh, he turned into a lizard. Yeah. I thought that one page was a pretty good transformation sequence from Buscema.
I agree. I think it's some of the best art. A lot of the art in this issue is kind of shaky, but I think this one sequence is really good.
And then
this sequence is really good because half of it's in shadows.
Yeah, well, because you don't. Yeah, you don't actually see the lizard. And then this is not a fourth wall break, but literally Sal Buscema shows up. That is the family with his correctly named wife and 3 sons. So Sal Buscema.
I'm gonna interrupt you. Hey Matt, this is a professional show.
Yeah.
It's been how many episodes?
I don't know.
Get with the program, okay?
Yeah.
So the Buscema family, they're terrorized by a giant lizard, but which one is it? It's the fake one. And we finally get the origin on this one. Kurt Connors has an assistant, and I was totally expecting the assistant to be the fake lizard. But actually,
no, it's
he injected some kind of serum into like a leftover cut off tail of the real lizard, which then grew into a giant lizard, which doesn't transform or anything. It's just always the lizard. And since it's from a piece of the lizard rather than human tissue, it's just pure primal instinct. And that includes basically its goal, as Kurt Connors claims, is to bathe itself in Kurt's blood, which is a great potential visual.
You not just get that primal instinct to bathe in someone's blood? Like, yeah. Happens to me every day.
Which is weird because you don't have a bath.
You're right.
Ben conveniently sees a news segment and then quickly makes it down to Florida. And I think it's not till later that we see that he like borrowed frequent flyer miles from Peter and MJ.
Well, they weren't using them.
I was hoping that he somehow like swung down to Florida in like 4 hours
by using like what would he do? Web jetpack it?
Yeah. And he shows up just in time to punch the fake lizard, and also just in time for the real lizard to become the real lizard.
You're missing out on the scene where Curt Connors is very angry his son came home late.
Yeah, he's just a super awkward father. And we end the issue with a tease for new artist on Spectacular Spider-Man, Luke Ross. And this ends a nearly continuous 100-issue run from Sal Buscema, which is pretty momentous.
It also says that a most unlikely having read it, I didn't hear. What?
I didn't hear a word what you just said because it cut out.
Well, it also says that an unlikely hero emerges to save the day, and having read the issue, I still don't know what that means.
It's Kurt, I guess.
The hero was you, Matt. It was you.
But I think, like, obviously Sal was going to leave eventually. It's kind of annoying how it happens in the middle of a 2-issue arc, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you could have planned that a little better.
Maybe he was just tired of drawing the lizard.
Moving into Spectacular 239. On the other hand, this cover I don't really like. It's very busy, which we will get to. It has all these all these reptiles on it.
I love the story better though.
A lizard's tail.
Because the fake lizard is made from a tail. That's what the other one should have been called.
New artist Luke Ross. I already actually went into him a little bit earlier because he was one of the fill-ins on Sensational between Jurgens and Urengo. But one tiny bit I didn't mention on that episode is his real name is Luciano Carros. And so Luke Ross is a very anglicized name for the Western market.
Huh.
And then I may not have mentioned that his first big break before this was a 90s New Gods revival written by Tom Payer and Rachel Pollack. And that was a very, very bad book.
I was going to say, how'd that do?
No good. John Byrne came in to fix it up. And it wasn't that good either. And so at this point, this is 239. Luke Ross stays on Spectacular until the book is canceled, which is with 263. So he's on this book quite a while. And I mean, though we're about to be done with this era somewhat shortly, so we'll just see. So we open this issue with Martha Connors in tight-fitting sleepwear. Always great.
I thought it was just a t-shirt, honestly.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's just, I don't mean like lingerie, but like.
I wouldn't even call it sleepwear. It's just a slightly longer t-shirt.
Yeah. But she's positioned in a way where you just see like all of her legs.
A lot of leg.
Also, I don't think he knows how to draw a bed, because that's not what a bed looks like.
I didn't notice that until you said it. Yeah, that's not a bed.
I don't know what that is.
That is like a concrete slab of just like no texture, and then a blanket strewn atop it.
And then we finally get the full lizard. And I was going back and forth, so I haven't read a lot of lizard appearances very recently. Matt, what was your interpretation of the characterization of the lizard here? Is it like totally on model?
It's fine. It's fine.
Wait. That's Matt Ford speak going for it's bad.
I was going again. I haven't read a ton of Lizard recently, but I was going back and forth on like whether they're going too far with the kind of like totally separate persona thing, where it comes around towards the end where you actually see the struggle and that it is Curt Connors underneath. But in the beginning of this issue, it totally seems like a Marvel or Hulk or like Ghost Rider kind of thing, where it's a totally different persona from Curt Connors.
Well, actually,
the lizard is
Curt Connors has to say the magic acronym lizard, and then he transforms after a snake falls from the sky and hits him.
He becomes the lizard, so he would have to say something else. Because, of course, Captain Marvel says Shazam and doesn't become Shazam.
But doesn't Captain Marvel...
Well, now he does, so you're wrong.
Captain Marvel Jr.?
Matt, were you going to say something?
Yes. The dichotomy with the lizard between him and Curt is interesting because it's basically different in every appearance. When he first appeared, it was like the Hulk. I don't think the lizard didn't even realize that he was Curt Connors. By the time we get around to S.H.I.E.L.D, supposedly Curt, and he has always known he was Curt, and that like they're the same person. Okay. So it's never really consistent.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so his motivation, the lizard's motivation at this point is, and it ties into Curt's recent ruminations about environmentalism. He wants to kill all humans and have reptiles take over the earth.
I'm down.
Which is a pretty grand scheme for a 2-issue throwaway story in Florida.
That's the same thing Hillary Clinton wants to do.
I like the lizard.
Oh, wow.
I like the lizard. I like Curt Connors a lot, especially as a spring cast member. His motivation far too often is, I want to replace humans with reptiles. And that takes seriously.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Vince said, well, the story takes place in Florida. So, you know what? We're going to just write this one off as, this is just another day in Florida.
Oh, it is.
Florida man attempts to take over world with reptiles.
Exactly.
I would not be surprised if I saw that.
All right. Well, here's the next question, Matt.
Yeah.
Again, because I don't really know shit about the lizard.
Yeah.
Does he usually have telepathic powers with reptiles?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
He does. He's had that since his first appearance.
Okay. So the lizard uses snakes and alligators to sick them on Spider-Man. And in the process, he almost kills his son. And as we've made multiple references...
Don't worry, he'd take care of that years later.
Yeah, he gets it done.
It's referred in the industry as a slow burn.
And then the lizard... But he saves his son from a falling tree. But in the process, gets his arm trapped. And the water is rising, so the lizard is going to drown.
Okay, so I just want to interrupt here. When all of the reptiles are coming for Connors' son, there is a king cobra riding on top of a turtle, and it is the greatest thing.
It's not a turtle, it's a tortoise.
What? Wait, I did not see this, and I need to.
But once he's in the water, the greatest part is Spider-Man reminds him that he's not an amphibian. He's like, by the way, you're not an amphibian, you're going to drown. And so Ben explains to him, he's like, hey, Curt Connors is missing that arm. So if you just actually transform, you can just shimmy your way out and you're going to be fine. And also,
it would really have sucked if it was the other arm. So, like,
yeah.
This if it was the other
arm. No, it'd be funny if it was the other arm, but Ben was confused and still told him to transform. He transforms and then he's stuck with this human arm stuck and just dies.
Drowns.
Probably more painfully, more consciously.
I liked the panel where the lizard was reaching for his son and he goes, Billy, no! Because now I just think of Billy.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Ben has gotten bit all over from venomous snakes, and the reptiles are back to trying to kill the child. And so Curt Connors finally breaks through and transforms, obviously. And then very quickly, all off panel, everything resolves, including Ben being cured of multiple poisons in his blood. And it ends with him on the airplane, and he hypes up Kurt Connors as a genius and great guy.
But when Connors turns back into himself, Ben is just like passed out over that log. Like he's just dead.
And then I'm pretty sure, so we get Ben saying like, oh, Kurt Connors is a great guy, but then we get the conclusion from Kurt Connors' perspective, where he's like, the world still sucks and I'm still the lizard. And that's the conclusion for him.
Someday I'm gonna eat my son.
And so we kind of skipped over this part because it's not even like that much shown on panel, but there's no specific conclusion to the fake lizard. I guess Kurt just killed him mostly off panel.
He ate him.
No, he didn't eat him. Because then Ben used the dead carcass as a weapon to trip the real lizard.
He ate part of it. He went back later for seconds. There you go.
You know what it is? It's a clone. So it disintegrated.
But yeah, I mean,
that's what happened. The body disintegrated.
Billy, now you have to, in addition to the Rest in Peace Jack shirt, for a 2-for-1 sale, you can now make the Rest in Peace fake lizard shirt.
No.
I want to remind everyone that the fake lizard first appeared in the Ben Reilly starring backups of the super specials, which the front of the issues of those were Planet of the Symbiotes. And that was a long time ago.
That
feels like were actually fun to read.
So we're wrapping up I don't know about that.
Yeah.
We're wrapping
more fun than this.
We're wrapping up a really old subplot, I guess. So we already saw his art, but what are your guys' thoughts on this artistic transition in Spectacular? Sal Buscema is finally gone, and we have Luke Ross.
And on the last page, Ben looks like a homeless man, and so I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't think he's
out of his mind with all the venom that's going through his system.
I don't think this is much better than Sal Buscema.
It's not.
It's
less interesting at the very least.
Yes, it is more generic.
Because my mind escapes me right now. Who's drawing amazing?
It's Phil Bagley.
Yeah, it just comes off as just a Bagley ripoff style. Like it just comes off as Bagley style, but it's not Bagley.
It's the eyes. It's the way he does eyes. It looks very similar to Bagley.
So our current art teams on Amazing, we have Bagley. On Spectacular, we have Luke Ross. On Spider-Man, we have John Romita Jr. And on Sensational, we have Mike Wieringo. And so, I mean, Luke Ross is definitely the weak link at this juncture.
Yeah, the best artist, I think, by far is Ringo.
Yeah, it's Ringo. And then who would you say is second? Because I feel like you're either going to say Romita or Bagley.
We don't really need a second.
It's Romita.
I'm not really. Romita. I don't think his art at this point is that great either.
Well, Bagley clearly isn't trying. So
no, Bagley doesn't care.
So let's get into our next little thing. So we talked about Suicidal Tendencies with Fake Lizard. Now we have two little snippets. First, we have the Amazing Spider-Man Annual 1996. And at some point, Marvel, I mean, technically, even a lot of the old annuals, they have the years on them, like 1987 or whatever. But at some point in the 90s, Marvel just started calling their annuals by year. And so you can calculate it. I don't feel like it. So this is a Blast from the Past annual. We have a great Ron Friends cover, and it's split halfway down the middle. And on one half, we have Spider-Man in the classic red suit, and there's all kinds of floating heads and stuff. And on the other half, we have Spider-Man in the black suit. And there are two stories in this issue, and each takes place as a flashback in a different era. We are only actually reading one of them, but I'll get to that in a bit. And so this story that we are reading, this takes place all the way back when Captain George Stacy is alive. And so obviously, also based on the chronology, Gwen Stacy is alive, Norman Osborn is alive, Harry Osborn is alive, and Kraven the Hunter is alive. All of those characters are dead. So everyone in this issue, like every named character in this issue is dead, except for Peter Parker, Mary Jane, and I guess Robbie Robertson. I don't think anyone else of note shows up. And Jonah was in one panel. And Ned Leeds is dead. He's in this issue. But on that same note, Betty is alive.
Right.
So everyone dies in Spider-Man. And then let's get to the credits.
Yes.
Because this is insane. So this is written by Tom DeFalco. It's co-plotted by Ron Frenz, who past a certain point was usually co-plotting with DeFalco on Thor and Spider-Man. And I think it's closer to kind of like a Marvel method, like Jack Kirby kind of deal. I'm not entirely certain how they split work. And Frenz does pencils or roughs or something like that. But of note, John Romita Sr. is doing finishes, and it says finishes. It says finished art, not even inks, over Ron Frenz.
Yeah.
And so we have John Romita Sr. drawing Ben Reilly. I had no idea this was happening.
Not the takeaway. Not the takeaway I had here, but I guess you're right. Yeah, we have Romita drawing Ben Reilly.
Yeah, John Romita Sr. drawing the Clone Saga. When I saw John Romita, and I was just, I don't usually pay a shitload of attention.
Yeah, you saw him just sitting there on the street.
I just assumed that it was Junior. And I was like, this is weird because it doesn't look anything like his style, so I assume he's just being very definitive over Frenz' pencils. But I'm like, oh, wait, this is John Romita Sr. This is crazy.
Yeah, and I love it.
Because, yeah, it's definitely like how we saw Gil Kane for a little bit. And that was mostly trash. But this had to have been a special assignment kind of deal. Because I don't think Romita has any real involvement with Marvel at this point, even though he was the art director at Marvel for years and years and years on staff. But I think that's well over at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did the little research, and allegedly this issue takes place between Amazing Spider-Man 87 and 88. And Matt, if you want to quickly fill us in kind of the general tone and stuff like that, might as well plug as well.
Yeah, I do a little daily show over on Instagram. I read an issue of Spider-Man every day, mostly, and yeah, okay, Billy, mostly every day, and I give a short minute-long review. Recently, I just finished talking about the death of Captain Stacy, which begins in issue 88. That means this story takes place literally right before George bites it.
Yep. So in the issue, we have, we do have a framing device. So we actually start with Ben Reilly stopping a mugging on a train, on a subway train. And he says that he got up and switched his costume between the moving cars, which that's very dangerous. Not a smart idea. Could easily fall, get run over by a train. And so these guys, they're trying to do a mugging, and then this guy jumps in front of a gun for his girlfriend, which then that triggers the flashback with Ben reminiscing. Well, he thinks about MJ and her relationship with Peter, and then we get an info dump on the Clone Saga so far. And we get a quick one-panel floating head appearance of Jessica. I was very excited to see.
Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
And then we get a flashback, and then the flashback starts with Ben's memory of Gwen. Because remember, the entire era of Gwen Stacy and everything Matt has been reading on Daily Spider Bites, that was Ben Reilly.
Sure.
Just to remind everyone.
For now.
And so we're back in this Amazing Spider-Man 87 moment. Harry wants to be with MJ. And so, Matt, let's fill us in a little bit again. What is the current status of MJ's interpersonal dynamics?
She's pretty close with Harry, but they're not item or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, they're pretty close.
Yeah, he asks. Well, he's kind of awkward about it. He basically asks MJ. He's like, "We should go exclusive." That's basically what he says, and it's kind of funny, considering like what that
funnier that she makes him off like it's a joke.
Yeah, and well, she pushes him off, and she's like, "Well, I'm a social whirlwind. I can't be nailed down or whatever." And Harry's conclusion is that girls want someone dependable, like Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. But
Peter Parker is the least dependable person in this comic book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Peter Parker is not a dependable person at all. And also, that rule, as MJ just explained, doesn't apply to her anyways.
I can name a more least dependable person, though, in comics, though.
Who?
Who?
You know who I'm going to say.
I don't.
Okay, yeah.
That's too.
Oh, Barry Allen. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
I would say so. With Clark.
On stands today in which Barry Allen literally destroys the Earth.
As you do.
Tied with
somehow like not the worst thing he's done.
Actually, it's not.
Listen, this show is about Spider-Man, not Barry Allen, and how shitty he is at doing his one job of protecting people.
Well,
that's our next podcast. It's just called the Barry Allen Isn't Fucking Asshole podcast.
Well, eventually that will be part of Crisis Cast. So go watch Crisis Cast.
I'm gonna buy a cake when we get to Crisis on Infinite Earths number 8, and I'm gonna eat it and blow out the candles when his ass finally bites the dust.
I'm gonna buy a cake when we get the Flashpoint. Can we put them on Spider-Man?
Yeah, let's talk about Spider-Man.
All right, so
he's got webs and he climbs up buildings.
Peter and Gwen are considering telling her father George about their relationship. Meanwhile, George is looking into Spider-Man and trying to figure out who he is or whatever. And I'll defer to Matt again. He's doing this at this point as well?
Yeah, he hangs out with Joe Robertson and they work together to kind of they're trying to figure out what Spider-Man's intentions are, and from there what his secret identity might be. And it's
okay.
Actually, it's go ahead.
And also just clarify for us, what exactly does George Stacy do? Because he's constantly talking about how he's retired in this issue.
That's a great question. I don't know. When he was retired and he came out of retirement to help the police, I think track down Spider-Man. I think it was at one point where Spider-Man was a menace for something. And then after that, he just keeps working with the police anyway. My assumption is that Stan forgot he had said he was retired. I don't actually know. I don't know what his job is.
And then we checked in with Harry and Norman Osborn, and the Osborn's doctor is named Dr. Fingeroff. And Danny Fingeroff really wishes he was Norman Osborn's doctor. I'll just say that.
I bet he also wishes he had a different last name, but...
Well, that's true, but I don't think he's getting a shitload of royalties for Darkhawk. And on that note, Norman Osborn, he's a terrible father, and he wants to scare Harry because he needs to toughen him up so that he can eventually take over the family business. And so he hires a bunch of goons to, I guess, mug him. It's not entirely 100% clear what their plan is because it doesn't go through completely. Also, Professor Miles Warren calls up Norman Osborn's office to ask about funding.
Yeah, is this the first time we've found any connection between Miles and Norman?
Maybe.
The first I can think of.
Yeah. And then there's this character named Joey Ears. I forgot to look him up. I'm pretty sure he doesn't exist.
He's my least favorite person in Goodfellas.
But Joey Ears, he just snoops on people and then he sells underground information to parties that would be interested in it. And he overhears this Norman Osborn plot to fuck with Harry. And he goes to give the info to Kraven the Hunter, who has his tiger, but then we don't see the tiger later in the issue, which is kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I'd have liked to have seen Spider-Man fight a tiger.
And then we have a Daily Bugle scene with Peter Parker dropping off some photos, and he's still pretty early on in his game, so Jonah's giving him shit about his skills. And Pete justifies it to himself as he walks out by saying that freelance photography is just a side gig for him. It's not that important to him as he's going through college. And, well, it's going to be your lifetime career.
Yep.
And Ned Leeds is fascinated by the Green Goblin. He's telling Betty about that. And then Peter Parker and his friend group, everyone meets up at the Coffee Bean, which it's cool to see this Coffee Bean flashback because, of course, Ben Reilly with his digs at the Daily Grind.
Yeah, and all these people are dancing in the middle of a coffee shop. Did people just dance in coffee shops in the 60s? Is that a thing people did?
It's so weird. I guess it's like
everyone was just on drugs.
I guess it's like, I mean, I don't know. They may have had, I guess it's equivalent to like a club for underage people.
The Coffee Bean? I guess.
Was that a thing in the 60s?
I don't know.
They're also not, oh, I guess they're underage. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think of like the clubs for underage people until like that's like a mid to late 90s thing.
I don't know. And Captain George Stacy, he's also there. He's going to meet Peter Parker formally, finally. And the goons are there as well. And one of the goons, he has a pass with George. And Pete notices that the goons are there, so he sneaks out to get him in his costume and everything. And he catches Kraven. Catches Kraven on the way over as well. And there is a fucking awesome splash page of Ron Frenz and John Romita Drawn, Kraven punching at Spider-Man and who is dodging, and he destroys a chimney.
Yep.
Of course he does. Add that to the fucking counter.
So John Romita Sr. has contributed to the destroyed chimney count. It really doesn't get better than this.
I mean, it does. It's called Not the Clone Saga, just anything that's not the Clone Saga.
And now, Matt, what is your favorite part of this Kraven fight?
Oh, with the nipple lasers. Kraven has his famous nipple lasers. And he blasts Spider-Man with them.
Yep. Pretty awesome. And it's also, I mean, Friends and Romita, they do some nice art stuff with it, where it's Kraven all in silhouette and just the nipple lasers.
Yeah, and I hate that it's just in silhouette because I can't argue that it's not nipple lasers.
It's
because there's no evidence that it is not nipple lasers.
Honestly, it goes to show just how great Kraven's Last Hunt really is as a story. Because before that, Kraven the Hunter was a lunatic with nipple lasers.
Yes.
Well, the other thing about that is it's funny how you bring up Kraven's Last Hunt is that earlier in the story, he stops a guy with a shotgun. He's like, "You think a shotgun can kill me?" And I was like, that's funny.
I didn't pick that up. And so Ben is tangling with Kraven, And I was expecting, I mean...
Peter technically Craven.
It's Ben Reilly. And I was expecting this actually to be like a misunderstanding fight where Ben's just like, wait, let me tell you, like, we're kind of doing the same thing, but actually, if you think about that too hard, it wouldn't actually make sense. And so Ben just like awkwardly carries the fight through the coffee beans window. And there's a hilarious moment where he just like twists the momentum to break their fall, but really what's breaking their fall are Craven's teeth into the ground. And here's another question for Matt is, do we often get villains or even just goons spilling over into the coffee bean in this era? Or is this way more of an isolated thing?
This is, as far as I can recall, this is I guess chronologically the first time it's happened.
Okay.
I've not seen it happen.
All right. I wasn't sure if it was a constant thing, because if that was true, it's like, why the hell do you keep going there?
Right. No, I've never seen it before.
And so some fight goes down, blah, blah. There's multiple parties involved. Captain Stacy gets a badass moment. MJ tries to push Harry Osborn to pick up a gun and help things out, and he bitches out. Harry basically just looks like a complete bitch in this story. And
kind of is one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And Craven gets away, and there's not really any conclusion to that. It's not like it matters. And basically, the conclusion here is that, and I guess, Matt, again, you've just been reading this, and you can tell me if this is different, if there was a reveal that this duplicates or contradicts.
Mm-hmm.
It's shown that basically this is the story where George, I mean, it's implied that he has a solid hint earlier in the issue, but this is the moment where George Stacy figures out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Right.
And he says, quote, "I will keep that secret until the day I die."
Which is like next week.
Yeah.
I like when he figures it out when he's on top of a building, surrounded by lizard mutants.
And the cranes. But Matt, there's not...
Leary, who's from Boston, so anytime he's a New York character, it's always funny.
There's not like another moment in the original stories where he like clearly figures it out or anything like that?
Not clearly, not until he's dying.
Okay, all right.
There are times where he's like, maybe, but no.
So this is a sort of quote-unquote valuable continuity insert.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'll also note, because there's like slightly ambiguous words from MJ, I will note that Mary Jane knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but of course she has since the night Uncle Ben died.
Yeah.
She just keeps that secret for like 15 years. And then we get the catch up where it's like, oh yeah, all these characters are dead now, particularly both of the Stacys, and we get a panel, of course, showing Gwen Stacy's death. And we finally cut back to the present with our framing device, and it's just Ben Reilly crying in his mask in the mirror, which is a very pitiful image. I think like Spider-Man crying with his mask on, that's just so uncomfortable.
Would you prefer him crying with his mask off and it's Tobey Maguire's face?
No. But it's got to get moist. And so the second half of this issue we did not read, but I want to quickly address what it is, why we didn't read it, etc.
Emphasis on quickly, because we have a whole other issue to talk about.
Well, we're not going to talk about a ton there. Well, we'll see. So in the second half, the second story, he's wearing the black suit. It's set literally right after the marriage. It's between issues 292 and 293, but really right after annual 23. Is it 23 or 21? I think it's 23. I don't know. And the marriage.
21.
Okay, 21. And so we are not reading it because that marriage era around issue 292, that's 100% certain totally Peter Parker. Because Ben Reilly is pre-150. So it's not really relevant to the Clone Saga. There's no framing device either, as far as I know. So Ben Reilly is not relevant to it. But I accidentally started reading some of it. And so I want to mention it's drawn by Steve Lytle, who I believe we've already seen before. But it's written by Fabian Nicieza, who we've referenced before, but I want to talk a little bit more about, even though we're not actually reading this story. Because I have a few weird points to make. So Fabian Nicieza was the writer of New Mutants, which then evolved into X-Force. X-Force #1 being like the second best-selling comic book issue of all time. He wrote Ageless X-Men. He wrote New Warriors. He wrote Cable, Deadpool, co-creating Deadpool, and the unimportant one, he also wrote Nomad. And as I was looking at his bibliography, that made me question, do you think Fabian Nicieza is the best-selling writer of the 1990s? It would be entirely pointless, probably impossible to even attempt to calculate that, but I think there's a solid chance that Fabian Nicieza is the best-selling writer of the infamous 1990s. Which I just found odd, because obviously, I mean, no offense to him, he doesn't have like the craziest positive reputation or anything like that.
No.
And possibly even in the history of all of comics, but I wouldn't go that far because you have so many like ridiculously super prolific guys in the Golden and Silver Age, which were mostly just all hacks. But like someone like Bob Haney, or like Bob Haney or
Stan Lee.
Well, yeah, Stan Lee, but I can't think of the guy who wrote like a lot of the war stories. I can't think of his fucking name. But a lot of these guys were just hacks, and they do like 10 scripts in an hour or something. And obviously a lot of Marvel method going on and all of that kind of shit. And then Bob Harris just fired Fabian Nicieza while X-Force and X-Men were going really strong for really no reason, just because he didn't like what he was doing, but like in a petty way. And then Nicieza kind of bounced around. He was the editor-in-chief of Acclaim Comics, which was the shitty second era of Valiant, and it was shitty. And then he eventually comes back to Marvel at the end of the 90s, and that's where he eventually takes over Thunderbolts and writes that for like pretty much 100 issues. And he writes a Gambit ongoing series, and he comes back to X-Men for a little bit. And then in the 2000s, he continued to be pretty prolific. Nicieza had runs on Superman, Post-Infinite Crisis. He wrote Robin, Red Robin, 50 issues of Cable and Deadpool. And then it's pretty much the New 52, I think, is what basically irreparably damaged his career on just one assignment, because he was the writer of Legion Lost. Oof. And he hasn't really ever had a noteworthy gig since then, but he still works. He does like weird like tie-in comics and stuff for Marvel. Also, I ate Five Guys burgers with his brother yesterday.
Was that on work salary? Was that a work expense?
It was. We did not write it off. And so that ends the unnecessary tangent on Fabian Nicieza.
No, next time you can just say I had burgers with his brother. Yes, you don't have to go through like this weird passive aggressive, like kind of like schlocky, like kind of insulting the guy first.
No, I said he was the best-selling writer in the 90s.
Yeah, and then you went like, he's never written anything great.
No.
You kind of indirectly said that.
Most people don't think so. I'm a big fan. Lots of X-Men stuff.
Listen to that man backpedal.
He launched the career of Greg Capullo. Thank the Lord.
Friend of the show,
we know if we had the time or the energy, Vince could probably pull out every issue of X-Force Smith ever written. I'm sure if anyone's a fan, it's this guy.
Well, I'm still waiting for like 2 trades to come out.
I will say this though, I've always enjoyed work I've read by Fabian Nicieza. That Red Robin run in particular, really, really good. DC, re-release it because it's impossible to find and trade.
You know what else he wrote was really, 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 really good?
What?
New Warriors.
No, it wasn't.
So let's move into our final tidbit. And this is Marvel Fanfare number 3. And this is not collected in the Clone Saga paperbacks. And I'm not entirely sure why, besides the fact that it's awful.
And it doesn't matter and serves no purpose.
Yeah, but
Spider-Man doesn't even need to be in this issue.
It serves
a Remember when I said hurry it up with your Fabian Nicieza talk, because we have to still talk about this? That was 10, 15 minutes ago, and now we still have to talk about this.
This issue is amazing. Look at that Wendigo. I love it.
Fuck up, Matt. You're wrong. It was horrible.
So
I need everybody, all 3 people, go look up the cover to Marvel Fanfare Volume 2, Number 3. It is the most adorable Wendigo. I want to hug it.
Your mic doesn't even want you to finish what you're saying.
It'll eat me, but I want to hug it.
So the first volume of Marvel Fanfare was created to showcase top talent on high-quality paper at a higher price. Well, obviously, the higher price with the high-quality paper. And it was edited by Al Milgrom, and he did these fun editorial cartoons.
And it wasn't good then, and it wasn't good in '96. And it won't be good when Marvel inevitably brings it back next year.
I'm not going to go on a full tangent going through the key issues of Marvel Fanfare, as I subjected my co-host to off air. But I will cut to the chase and say that Marvel Fanfare, it had a few hits, but it basically became a dumping ground for inventory stories and random pinups. And now, but the thing is, again, the original idea for that was top creators on top paper, top tier stuff. This second volume of Marvel Fanfare is literally the exact opposite, where all of the creators on this series were newcomers to the industry, doing stories on cheap paper, being sold for 99 cents, whereas regular issues around this point are $1.95. And Marvel had a few of these series at 99 cents at this point. Some of them were tie-ins to the various animated TV shows. And now let's get to those newcomer creators. This issue is written by Joe Kelly, and he also wrote the previous issue, which is slightly connected, which we will get to. But this series featured some of his earliest work. It's not like his debut, but early on. And if you go to Marvel Fanfare's Wikipedia page, it claims that this series also featured some of the earliest work from Scott Collins. But I'm telling you, that is entirely bullshit. He had been getting regular gigs for like 3 years. So I don't know who wrote that. Someone go fix Wikipedia. I don't feel like doing it. I did fix on Wikipedia the first appearance of Vampirella, because Wikipedia had the publication date instead of the on sale date. And that was something I was told to do.
You got paid to do that.
So the artist here is Pop Man. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I don't know what he does now, so I'm not sure how I would check that.
He's old man now.
Based on this art, he's probably not drawing.
So Pop Man is the outgoing regular artist on Ghost Rider. And people fucking hated him on that book.
I wonder why.
Probably because the art looks like absolute garbage.
But Billy, that being said, his most infamous issue on Ghost Rider featured guest appearances by Howard the Duck and Devil Dinosaur.
Oh, yes.
And so I brought some props. I have a lot of Ghost Rider issues for some reason. And so here is Ghost Rider number 1,
Hey, look, that's good.
From 1990, the first appearance of Danny Ketch, written by Howard Mackey, who we've read a lot of on the Clone Saga. I will say, I don't think Howard Mackey has ever really been a good writer, but he is significantly, I feel, significantly more palatable on early Ghost Rider than Spider-Man. And so this is issue 1 from 1990. And then Howard Mackey's last issue in the series is 69.
Nice.
Yeah. And the series was initially drawn by Javier Saltares and Mark Texeira, and they'd kind of switch off, and one would be inking the other and stuff like that. And it has a really distinct style where it's very 90s, but it's also like gothic, and it's a really cool style. And then it went through several artists, and by this point, it's Salvador Larroca by 69, and then it becomes Pop Man, and everyone fucking hated it. And Pop Man leaves, and Salvador Larroca comes back.
I didn't even know Mackey. I didn't even know the book continued after Mackey left.
Yeah. All right, that's the other note. So this is issue 69, the last Howard Mackey issue. It lasts 93 issues. So another 20 plus. And even around here, the book is kind of trash. And it quickly devolves into even more trash, and there's some weird retcons with the origin of the Ghost Rider.
And then Jason Aaron comes on and destroys everything.
Yeah, I mean, he fucks it. That's several years later, though. I don't think it was actually Pop Man. I think it was shortly after this, Salvador Larroca redesigned Danny Ketch's iconic costume.
Yeah, I thought this was Vengeance when we first saw him, because this costume is not Danny Ketch's costume at all.
Yeah, so let's talk about what Ghost Rider looks like here. He's like neon bright orange and yellow, terrible color scheme, and with like weirder spikes, and he has like giant puffy shoulder pads.
You know what he's trying to wear? Like the outfit's trying to be like a racing, like a bike racer's like outfit with the zip up and everything, and then it has a stupid leather riding jacket over it.
Was this design made for a toy?
It looks like it was.
It looks very toyetic.
I mean, also, here's some fun trivia for you. Ghost Rider was going to have an animated series, and then Fox canceled it because they deemed it too scary for children. But if you watch the Fantastic Four cartoon, Ghost Rider shows up and gives Galactus the penance stare.
And I think he was in a few of the shows, because I think his backdoor pilot was in Hulk.
And then, Billy, you'll like this. Are you aware of the great family film for the holidays, Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Of course I am.
Okay, so there's a scene where they're in one of the toy stores, because the toys for the show hit shelves. So if you look closely on one of the shelves, you can see the toys for the failed Ghost Rider animated series on the shelves.
I mean, really, I included this issue so we can talk about Ghost Rider, because Spider-Man doesn't really do anything at all. I mean, neither does Ghost Rider. This is a very like plot-driven issue without a plot.
Yeah, nothing happens in it. The Wendigo shows up, and I guess it kills people, but you never see it. It mostly just looks cute and then leaves.
So I will give the plot of this issue.
Go ahead.
Wendigo killing people. Spider-Man's like, hey, don't do that. Ghost Rider's like, hey, don't do that. This weird foundation that I don't... Is it in anything else? Probably not. They're like, hey, don't do that. And then Wendigo's like, I'm gonna do that. And then they're like, okay, then we have to beat you up. And Ghost Rider's like, hey, I'm gonna kill you. And the Foundation's like, hey, I'm gonna kill you. Except for one lady, she's like, no, I'm not gonna kill you. And then Spidey's like, hey, Ghost Rider, don't kill him. And Ghost Rider's like, nah, I'm gonna kill him. And he's like, okay, but give him the stare first. He gives him the stare. He's like, oh shit, he a man. I'm not gonna kill him. And the Spidey's like, hey, good job not killing him. And that's it.
Well, the one detail Billy did miss is that the Wendigo is the fiance of this female agent woman. And so it becomes this very, very shitty Beauty and the Beast, King Kong kind of thing.
But see, like, I didn't mention it because it doesn't matter, because I don't think they exist outside of this single issue.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I want to remind everyone that the way Wendigos work is you turn into a Wendigo if you practice cannibalism. And so this guy, he had to eat some body parts.
But if you don't practice, how are you going to get good at it?
That's a good point. And also, they've been following this Wendigo, I guess from Canada. Honestly, I didn't pay a ton of attention to this issue, where the Hulk and Wolverine came across it in the last issue of Fanfare, which was also written by Joe Kelly. And I mean, that's the issue. We already touched on it, but let's talk a little more. What do you guys think about Pop Man's art?
Bad.
It sucks.
I hate it. It's like, it's very cartoony, and if it was just that, and he was put on like some specific book, which I don't think exists, it would be fine. But even within this issue, his art style is very inconsistent, which is a major part of the problem.
The only redeeming quality to his art is that the Wendigo looks totally huggable, and I want to hold it.
Most people would say that's a detraction because it shouldn't be.
I mean, no, you're right. It's definitely not a good thing, but I do want to hug that Wendigo.
I would say the good thing about Pop Man's art is that the book eventually ends.
Yep. I think, but Pop Man did some other stuff. I think he did some Batgirl, maybe some some Cassandra Cain Batgirl, I believe. He may have done a little bit of Robin, but it may have just been covers. He kind of just got stereotyped as like the super cartoony teenage guy, which of course is exactly what you think for Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
So that's basically that was the doc for today. And next episode, we move right along. We will be talking about an arc in Adjectiveless Spider-Man, which will deal with the mob shit.
Well, they don't exist.
And it'll be the conclusion, just like we had the fake lizard conclusion subplot. Jimmy 6 will be concluded for now. They'll keep using him after the Clone Saga ends, but the mob stuff for now will end. But also, there are a few one-offs, and so next week we will also read an amazing issue, wrapping up Judas Traveler and Scryer.
Yay!
We will read an unlimited issue. Wrapping up The Great Game.
Oh, dear God, that's still going on.
Is my girl Joystick in it?
Another great subplot. I assume she is.
Billy, you get to say goodbye to Karma and Joystick next week.
Chakra! Chakra, Mike! Learn your characters!
No, actually, all right, I'm not done, though. Billy, next episode might be the trifecta for you. Because we'll have Chakra, we'll have Joystick, and in our Spider-Man team-up issue,
Jack?
Howard the Duck.
Oh,
yes. No. This is the best day ever.
And also Gambit, but that's not as interesting.
Fuck Gambit.
Watch Billy not be here for the next episode.
And
Mikey just flipped me off for saying fuck Gambit, by the way. I want it to be known.
The best part of the Howard the Duck story is that it sort of involves cloning and a crossover with Image Comics.
What the fuck?
And legal debates.
Oh, okay.
And Tom Brevoort forever swearing off Steve Gerber.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this.
I actually know exactly what the story is then.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about it.
All right, so everyone, thanks for watching this episode, and tune in next time. Peace. Oh, and go to BetterHelp.com. Thanks for sponsoring.
You know, I think it's Mental Health Awareness Day, by the way.
It actually is.
Yeah.
Oh my God.